Iran's president begins the week with a dramatic statement to his people. They need to close shops and prepare for war. Back in Israel, the IDF and the Shin Bet engaged in a secret undercover operation that exposed the secret of a money laundering network run by the Hamas terrorist organization in Turkey with Iranian backing. And speaking of Hamas, they know exactly where the remains of the last Israeli fallen captive are, but they are dragging out the time before turning him over to Israel, and in the United States, the patience is running out. Hamas is also refusing to disarm at any price, and today we'll bring you the details of President Trump's new plan for Gaza. But Hamas has its own plans, and they don't include allowing anyone take their place. Will terror continue to rule the Gaza Strip? Hamas is trying to restore deterrence in Gaza, and this is a blow to Israel. And in the north, there is a slightly different picture. Is Lebanon on the way to normalization with Israel? Tension with Hezbollah rises, and the IDF is on a roll, hitting Hezbollah with one strike after another. And this week, the IDF will bring Hezbollah a new nightmare as the IDF's elite force from Gaza was transferred to the Lebanese border. President Trump also has a plan for how to develop this border after the Riviera in Gaza plan, but there's a few things that have not yet been sorted out, and Israel might have already opened up a new front against Hezbollah. But there is also a giant opportunity for Israel and for Lebanon to build economic ties and relations to prevent another war, and we'll tell you more about that. But first, Iran is facing bankruptcy, and we're not just talking about money. They're running out of everything that they need to live, including water and oxygen. And we'll also bring you a closer look at the new security agreements between Israel and Germany as the world faces down the prospects of World War III. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. I'm your host, Yair Pinto, bringing you all the truth about what is happening here in Israel. So let's go over the headlines of the last 24 hours before we dive into the details. According to the IDF spokesperson in Arabic, documents of the Hamas terrorist organization were exposed this week, indicating that Hamas operates a network of Gazan money changers in the heart of Turkey under Iran's direction to transfer hundreds of billions of dollars straight to Hamas and its senior officials. However, after elimination of the Yasser Abu Shabab, the leader of the resistant movements against the terror organization Hamas, and after Hamas restored its deterrence in the Gaza Strip, they are trying to gain more support and funding. Today, it reaps another achievement and inflicts another blow on Israel as it keeps playing games and assumes that everybody is stupid. For instance, Hamas is willing to discuss freezing or storing its weapons inside the Gaza Strip, but not disarming. In general, the terrorist organization has made it clear that despite what it agreed in the ceasefire, it does not plan to abandon its weapons or to allow an international force to enter the Gaza Strip. In the United States administration, we can begin to see that they are giving up on pushing the original plan and looking for an alternative that would leave Hamas in control of large parts of the Gaza Strip. But will Israel agree? And beyond that, after the last fallen captive is returned, Israel will need to move to phase B of this original plan, but there are already quite a few disputes on the table. Qatar and Turkey, who put everything on the line for the destruction of Israel, want to prevent Hamas from being disarmed, and Ankara enjoys backing from elements in the Trump administration who wanted to have a presence in the Gaza Strip. The composition of the international force is also far from being agreed upon, and these are the key points that will come up in the Netanyahu-Trump meeting in the White House later this month. And meanwhile, tensions remain high on the border with Lebanon after the IDF destroyed Hezbollah weapons and ammunition depots. Unfortunately, Lebanon is still bound to Hezbollah and to the conditions of the Arab consensus, and far from normalization with Israel. Furthermore, Lebanon is willing to discuss economic cooperation, but it does not bring it closer to normalization with Israel, and Hezbollah's control of the political system and the Arab conditions for a Palestinian state continue to block any kind of progress in that direction. But in the Trump administration, they see it differently, as a White House source revealed this week that President Trump is prompting an initiative to establish an economic zone in southern Lebanon as a solution for stability and to reduce threats against Israel from Lebanon. However, a Lebanese official declared that this is a project that is not practical on the ground. And further afield, against the backdrop of Western assessments that a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran is a matter of time, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian issues a dramatic message to the citizens of Iran that they must close shops and prepare for war. They don't have enough water in Iran, but they seem to have plenty of missiles, and for the first time this week, Iran's armed forces demonstrated a combined attack of anti-ship cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. Experts in Tehran are focusing on the Qadr 380 missile, which has a flight range of 1,000 kilometers and an ultra-low flight profile. On the other hand, the head of Iran's Institute for Soil and Water Research warns that the land is nearing bankruptcy, and the country is in its 6th consecutive year of drought. Is anybody listening to this? And finally, we'll bring you an exclusive look at the security agreements between Israel and Germany, which are set to be expanded after deployment of an Arrow battery in Germany. The countries are expected to jointly produce interceptors for the Arrow system. The Germans have also raised requests to produce additional Israeli weapon systems. And the security cooperation also includes funding and is crucial going forward for Israel, so we'll bring you all the details of this arrangement very shortly. As you can see, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report, bringing you all the truth about what's happening here in Israel, as this is day 794 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region that are taking their orders from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. A moment before we begin, I want to call on you to continue and help us spread the truth of what's happening here in Israel. So we're at a stage where it's hard for us to distribute our content, and we need your help to tell the algorithm that it's important to share what's actually happening here in Israel. So how do you help us? You give a like to this video, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to TBN Israel on YouTube. Thank you so much. We can't do this without you. And now we're getting into the news and starting with the latest headlines about the Hamas terrorist organization. The IDF spokesperson in Arabic, Lieutenant Colonel Avichai Aderi, announced on Sunday that the IDF and the Shin Bet exposed a secret money laundering network run by Hamas in Turkey under Iranian direction. According to Aderi, documents of the terrorist organization were uncovered indicating that Hamas operates a network of money changers made up of Gazan exiles in the heart of Turkey, exploiting the country's financial infrastructure for terror purposes. The Gazan money changers operate in full cooperation with the Iranian regime and transfer hundreds of millions of dollars directly to Hamas and its senior officials. Also, according to the announcement, the money changers manage extensive economic activity in the heart of Turkey, including receiving, storing, and transferring Iranian funds into Hamas's hands. The IDF and the Shin Bet also exposed the identities of 3 operatives originally from Gaza, money changers who operate under Iran's guidance in the heart of Turkey. The announcement also stated the Hamas terrorist organization, encouraged and supported by the Iranian regime, and after causing the destruction of the Gaza Strip, it continues trying to advance terror outlets against the state of Israel and to rehabilitate itself, and this also is happening outside the territory of the Gaza Strip. The IDF and the Shin Bet warn against maintaining ties with money-changing networks and with the other economic arms of the Hamas terrorist organization. However, this is not all the news about Hamas for today. There is an internal war raging in the Gaza Strip between the Hamas terrorist organization and clans that want the organization to fall and disappear. Palestinian sources reported on Sunday that the Popular Forces organization in Rafah executed 2 Hamas terrorists captured by it who had previously been hiding in underground tunnels in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip. Sources in Gaza also reported that one of the Hamas terrorists was a commander in the terrorist organization's sniper unit named Muntasir Abu Samah Abu Jihad. From his photograph, it appears that in the past he served as an officer in the Hamas police in Rafah at a rank equivalent to deputy superintendent. However, while Israel, the United States, and regional states tried to outline the day after in the Gaza Strip, the Hamas terrorist organization is doing everything to make sure that nothing changes and that it remains armed and in control. Hamas complicates every attempt to reach stability, and behind the pretty declarations about resistance and defending the people, Hamas continues to run a whole array of lies and games on the backs of Gaza's residents, the Palestinians, and at the expense of Israel's security. In just a moment, we'll bring you all the details on how Hamas is trying to shape the day after in the Gaza Strip, but first, I want to invite you to give a click to the subscribe button so that you stay tuned to the truth in real time and never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. I also want to speak to you about one of our partners, because as we enter the Christmas season, when our hearts return to Bethlehem and the birth of Jesus, Yeshua in Hebrew, I want to speak about Israel. Israel has been through so much in the past 2 years, and recovery is slow as communities rebuild, families heal, and tourism, which is a major engine of Israel's economy, is taking a long time to recover. Israel is healing, but it takes time, it takes faith, and it takes friends. So, when people ask, how can I help Israel right now? I say, bless Israel this season. And that's why I stand with Arza. Arza is an Israeli small business that we've been partnered with for many years now. Arza works with artisans in Jerusalem, in the Galilee, and in Bethlehem to create handmade pieces from the Holy Land. Each season, they gather these gifts into an Arza box where you've never been here or you haven't walked these steps before. It's a taste of the land of the Bible, the land of Israel. Many on the Arza team served in Israel's defensive forces, in reserves, near the front lines, and are now rebuilding their life. So when you purchase an Arza box, you bless Israel, you keep small businesses alive, and you help families rebuild. This year's Christmas box is Nativity Night, bringing that holy night in Bethlehem into your home. So make sure to go to arzabox.com and use the code TBNIL for 20% off of your subscription. Again, that's arzabox.com, and the coupon code is TBNIL, and you'll get 20% more off of your subscription. So bless Israel this Christmas, support Israeli artisans, small businesses, and bring the Holy Land into your home. And now we're getting back into the news and staying on the topic of the Hamas terrorist organization. In a rare interview, Khalil El-Haya, one of the 5 members of the Hamas terrorist organization's leadership in Gaza, openly presented Hamas's vision for the Trump plan, while the American plan speaks about disarming Hamas and bringing an international force to help stabilize the Gaza Strip. El-Haya made clear that Hamas does not intend to give up its weapons, certainly not now. According to him, Hamas is deliberately freezing the situation and preserving difficulty, chaos, and violence as part of its strategy. Also regarding the international force, Washington planned to bring into Gaza international soldiers to maintain the peace, and Hamas's message is clear. The terror organization agrees to international forces only on the condition that they be separating forcing on the border, but not the neighborhoods inside the Gaza Strip, not in the refugee camps, and not in places where Hamas holds the control. In other words, Hamas tries outwardly to give the message of one who is prepared for stability. But in practice, they ensures that all the military power and the control on the ground remains in the Hamas hands. So it can clearly be seen that the Hamas terrorist organization is running a double game and deepening the mess. And against the backdrop, there is another dispute that is taking place around the return of the body of the fallen captive Yassam officer Ran Guyali. Israel conditions moving to phase B of the deal on his return, but here too Hamas uses the family's pain as leverage. El Haya promised that members of the terrorist organization will go out to new areas to search for Guyali, and reports from the Gaza Strip speak about searches in the Zaytun neighborhood in cooperation with the Red Cross. The mediators are pressing, and in Israel there is concern about a surprise by Trump and an announcement of moving to the next stage before the captive is returned to Israel and his family, as well as Hamas's consent to the terms of this deal. For its part, Hamas, instead of giving a clear answer, again plays with time and with emotions, ruling out vague promises and preserving uncertainty. And here too, it can be seen clearly the Hamas terrorist organization is the one holding the keys and the pain and continues to use them as part of its political game. At the same time, on the ground itself, Hamas isn't satisfied with evading a political arrangement. Inside Gaza, the terror organization is trying to restore its internal deterrence through force and violence against Palestinians. The assassination of Yasser Abu Shabab, a leading figure in an armed militia that cooperates with Israel to free Gazans from Hamas's terror, amongst other things in locating tunnels and Hamas fighters, became a warning sign to anyone ready to stand up to Hamas or to work with Israel. After Hamas gave a 10-day ultimatum to armed militias to turn themselves in, reports began to arrive that members of clans and militias indeed are starting to surrender. One of the heads of the clans union in the Gaza Strip has already explained publicly that Abu Shabab's end is the result of a collaboration with Israel, thereby reinforcing the message that Hamas wants to embed. Whoever does not submit to Hamas is marked as a traitor. Thus, Hamas restores deterrence inside the Gaza Strip, but does so by intimidation, assassinations, and settling scores with Palestinians, and continues to crush every internal attempt to cope in its reign of terror. Instead of allowing Gaza's residents to find another path, the Hamas terrorist organization forcibly preserves a reign of fear, making it so that both the world and the Palestinians themselves will find it difficult to free themselves from the chaos that it is creating. I don't expect this to make any difference to those who are wearing white checkered keffiyehs and shouting in the streets of New York, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. But for anyone who is watching this, who might have considered supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization by the way, in this way, or in any other way, do you really want to stand with people who enforce their will through intimidation, violence, terrorism? Is this the way to support the Palestinians? Much less support justice in any meaningful sense of the word. Let me know what you think in the comments. And meanwhile, in the background of all of this, a complicated system of talks is taking place in Jerusalem, in Washington, Qatar, and Turkey about the day after in the Gaza Strip. And there too, Hamas is the focus of the dispute. Together, Israel and the United States built a 20-point plan that everyone signed on to, at the center of which is one clear principle: disarming Hamas. Yet in Israel, they warned that now Qatar and Turkey, those same countries that helped mediate the hostage deal, are actively working to prevent a situation in which the terror organization truly disarms. In the talks with the Americans, all kinds of compromises are coming out of the political echelons in Doha and Ankara. For instance, one idea is that Hamas will transfer its weapons to the Palestinian Authority, or that the weapons will be stored in warehouses under international supervision. On paper, that sounds moderate, but from Israel's perspective, and after October 7th, that is a red line. It's simply another way to circumvent the basic principle that not a single rifle, not a single rocket, and not a single weapons depots remains in the hands of the Hamas terrorist organization that could serve it in another round of fighting. Here too, behind the diplomatic proposals stands the same reality. As long as Hamas remains armed, it continues to control the situation, to lie to the world, and to make every attempt at an arrangement impossible. In Jerusalem, they warned that this is exactly the gray area that Hamas loves, a model that allows it to keep the weapons close to them. And the Hamas terrorist organization is an expert in world games and in lies. They can maneuver precisely where they want to be. They can say that they gave up, while in practice, they are holding the same military power that continues to threaten Israel, but also the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. And alongside this, Qatar and Turkey are also pushing a timetable convenient for Hamas. According to their proposals, Hamas will be able to continue holding weapons for about 2 more years, and only afterwards would the next step be considered. Israel, on the other hand, insists that the time for such a policy has long passed and speaks of a few months at most. In fact, Israel's message to the Americans is sharp. If disarmament is not done within an orderly agreement, Israel will be forced to do it itself, with all the military and all the regional implications. So to speak plainly, fighting in Gaza is likely to return within the next half a year if Hamas does not put down its weapons. And here too, in Israel, the root of the dispute is clear, and it doesn't matter if the world agrees to see the Hamas terrorist organization continue to rule armed on Israel's border. In Israel, they understand that it is impossible to preserve that same dangerous game and expect stability. And we will do everything so as not to return to the situation of 2 years ago when Hamas attacked us. Within this picture also enters the question of who will present in the Gaza Strip after this war. Who will lead it? In the American administration, there are elements like President Trump's envoy Tom Barak, who are pushing for a Turkish presence inside the Gaza Strip as part of the solution. Israel vehemently objects this because of its view that Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is behaving as one who is trying to take from Iran the title of Israel's most extreme enemy. He hosts in Istanbul conferences for imams that are calling for Israel's destruction. Iranian funds are passing through Turkey to Hezbollah and to Hamas, terrorist organizations. And Turkey itself is ideologically identified with the Muslim Brotherhood movement, to which Hamas also belongs. So let us recall that the movement has recently declared a terrorist organization and outlawed in the United States of America. For Jerusalem, the meaning is clear. One who enables the flow of money and ideology to the Hamas terrorist organization cannot be the one supervising the day after in the Gaza Strip. This is yet another front where Israel is forced to explain to the Americans that the central problem, again, is the Hamas terrorist organization and the system that supports it. And here at TBN Israel, we will continue to simplify and to bring you the truth of what's happening here. I know it can be very complicated, but we're doing our best to give you daily updates of the situation so that you will know how to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. If you want to help us, make sure to like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe to TBN Israel on YouTube. Now, we are switching our focus to the northern arena. During an operation in recent days by the IDF 601st Battalion under the command of the 769th Brigade, an underground bunker and tunnel shaft that had previously been used by Hezbollah terrorist organization was located and neutralized. In addition, forces of the 300th Brigade destroyed another weapons depot used by the Hezbollah terrorist organization. The shaft and the weapons depot were destroyed and previously been part of Hezbollah's entrenchment and infrastructure in the southern parts of Lebanon, not far with the border from Israel. And during the war, the IDF forces found weapons in the shaft, including mortar bombs that were intended to be launched towards Israel. These are old infrastructures that are not active today, but their destruction was carried out in order to prevent the possibility of future exploitation. And the IDF will continue to act to remove any kind of threat to the state of Israel and to thwart attempts at rehabilitation by Hezbollah terrorist organization, and it remains committed to the understandings agreed between the state of Israel and Lebanon. Now, I need to explain something to all of you. The American dream for Lebanon begins like a colorful postcard with southern Lebanon as the new Riviera of the Middle East, including a seaside promenade, marines, hotels, factories, and a thriving economic zone adjacent to the Israel-Lebanon border that will bring money, stability, and shared interests instead of missiles, tunnels, and Hezbollah's murderous terrorists. This is the vision that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is pushing behind the scenes to turn southern Lebanon from a front line of missiles into an international economic area that would lower the threat level to Israel and give a better quality of life to everybody. And according to the White House source, the goal is simple on paper. If residents of southern Lebanon profit from business, experts, and a new port integrated into the global trade routes, they will prefer stability over cooperation with terrorist organizations. Washington looks at southern Lebanon as a potential economic asset because of its strategic geopolitical location and the possibility to establish logistics and industrial zones that will attract Arab and international investments and turn the border with Israel from a battlefield into a trade corridor. But then, the reality of the Middle East arrives and knocks down all these wonderful Western dreamers. As long as southern Lebanon is controlled by extreme Islam, there will be no reconstruction and not even the basic infrastructure. So talking about a Riviera is disconnected from reality. The American initiative is mainly a tool to calm Israel so that it delays a broad military operation against Hezbollah, a step that would reshape Lebanon entirely, while on the ground the threat to Israel from the northern border remains as it was. And if you go down into Beirut and the Lebanese politics, you understand why. Despite a few new signs of diplomatic flexibility, Lebanon is still captive in Hezbollah's hands, the organization that holds the state hostage with Iranian weapons and the threat of a civil war. So to be sure, the internationally recognized government of Lebanon is making some very positive statements and making positive gestures. For instance, Lebanon's government has signaled to Israel and to the West that it is prepared to talk not only about the ceasefire, but also about economic issues and cooperation, and even agreed to include civilians in the committee supervising the ceasefire. Also recently, a veteran diplomat was appointed, former ambassador to Washington, Shimon Karam, and on the Israeli side, Dr. Ori Raznik from the National Security Council. This looks like a step that heralds the possibility to one day speak of normalization. In practice, security officials in Israel clarified that these steps have taken less out of a desire for peace and more of an attempt to improve the atmosphere so that Israel delays the offensive it is planning against the Hezbollah terrorist organization, and to buy more time so that the government in Lebanon holds on. Here Hezbollah itself enters the picture, and the threat to Israel becomes more tangible. Hezbollah's Secretary General, Sheikh Naim Qassem, publicly raged at the appointment of a diplomat to head the Lebanese delegation and labeled the step as a free concession to Israel. He also brought up the Lebanese government's decision of August 5th to dismantle the weapons of the resistance and announced this would not happen without fighting by Hezbollah. Some of the organization's supporters went further and accused the government of betrayal. From Hezbollah's perspective, any direct contact between the Lebanese representatives and Israelis, even around the ceasefire, harms the monopoly that it wants to keep for itself, both on the weapons and on the decision of the war or peace with Israel. It is also quite clear that Hezbollah has no respect for the parts of the Lebanese population that see the internationally recognized government of that country as their representatives. In any case, a year has passed since the ceasefire with Israel was announced, but Hezbollah is keeping Lebanon from moving forward and is not giving up the rockets aimed at Israel's northern community. So this raises questions about whether it is even possible to build a new reality north of Israel when an armed terrorist organization loyal to Iran holds the steering wheel. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments. Israel sees well that the pace at which Hezbollah tries to recover from the blows that it suffered and also to strengthen ties with Turkey and the new Syria is faster than the pace at which it is truly weakened. Therefore, behind every talk of reconstruction, economic zone or cooperation, the real picture is clear. Until the source of the problem is addressed, which is Hezbollah's weapons and Iranian control, Israel's north will continue to live in the shadow of a heavy threat and the dream of a quiet Riviera in southern Lebanon will for now remain just as a dream. And here at TBN Israel, we will continue to bring you all the truth about what's happening in Israel, and as always, we invite you to continue to spread the truth. And Israel is standing now on the front line against extreme Islam that has already penetrated Europe and the United States of America and is affecting life in every developed country in the world. So it's time to fight the terrorist fake news with the truth. Speak the truth about what's happening in Israel to as many people as possible. And if you want to help us, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Now, we're switching our focus to the front against Iran. The world continues to watch with concern the increasingly intense confrontation between Israel and Iran, as Western officials assess that the next direct clash between the countries is only a matter of time. Amidst this peak tension, Iran's president Masoud Pezeshkian has issued a sharp and unusual statement that are making waves all around the world. For instance, Pezeshkian has called on his country's citizens to adopt a posture of national emergency, saying that they must re-embrace the spirit of war in a war period. He also said that shops must be closed and prepare for war. According to him, Iranians must act with determination, with the goal of sending a clear message to Iran's enemies. Pezeshkian added and emphasized that only if the sense of emergency and readiness to confront strengthens amongst the public, then America and Israel will not be able to do anything against the Islamic Republic of Iran. And furthermore, in recent days, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps conducted a large-scale military exercise and showcased a new naval offensive capability, which they defined as a message of warning to Israel, to the United States, and to their allies. According to reports in Iranian media portals and quotations from commanders as published on the World Defense News media portal, the drill demonstrated an operational launch package that included an unprecedented combination, a parallel launch of anti-ship cruise missiles together with short-range ballistic missiles that are fired from sites deep inside Iran towards mock targets in the Gulf of Oman. At the center of the strike stood long-range ballistic missiles of the types Gadar 110 and Gadar 380. Western experts placed the central emphasis in this drill precisely on the Gadar 380 cruise missiles, considered one of the most advanced weapons in Tehran's arsenal, with an estimated range of 1,000 kilometers and more. But the range of this missile is only one thing that makes it so dangerous. It also possesses the capability to fly at low altitudes, almost skimming the sea as it moves at supersonic speed. This makes it very difficult to detect and intercept by advanced air and naval defensive systems. It also has operational flexibility, as it can be launched from both mobile devices and from underground silos, making it hard to track and to strike the launchers. Iran has also demonstrated recently that it possesses the capability for multi-domain warfare, including the firing of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, UAVs, and other weapons. The exercise demonstrated not only the power of the missiles, but also advanced training in combination and in coordination strikes of the Iranian Navy and other parts of its military. The combination of sea-skimming cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and attacking UAVs points to a clear Iranian intention to develop a complex, long-range naval strike capability against naval forces in the Middle East region. And now, I have to make a quick comment, and you can probably guess what I'm going to say. Can the Iranian people eat or drink missiles? There are well-publicized water shortages in Iran, as well as the terrible air quality in cities, rising levels of poverty, crumbling schools, hospitals, and public welfare systems. These missiles and UAVs that the Iranian regime is spending all the money of Iran and the time are going to do nothing to solve the problems that the 70 million people who live in Iran deal with every single day. They're not going to do anything to cause serious problems for Israel or for the United States either, because we've got ways to defend against these weapons. As impressive as they might look when used in an exercise like in the one that the IRGC just conducted. Just think about it and let me know what you think in the comments. Because here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development regarding Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps and be the first to bring you all the information so that you will know how to pray. Remember, let's pray for the people of Iran. They need our help and our prayers. They need better leadership. Now, after that hopeful note, we must turn to something less hopeful, but very important, because it seems that Germany and all of Western Europe are preparing for the possibility of war. This week, the first visit to Israel of Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, marking 60 years of diplomatic relations, also included a significant security declaration that Israel and Germany have agreed on expanding their security cooperation, including through the joint production of interceptors for the Arrow system. According to the understandings, the cooperation will also include German fundings, and it is defined in Israel as crucial for the continued strengthening of missile defensive systems and for ensuring the IDF's qualitative edge. Beyond that, a classified annex is attached to the agreement, according to which Germany will assist Israel in sensitive security areas intended to preserve its regional superiority. In parallel, Merz seeks to purchase additional weapon systems from the Jewish state of Israel, not only air defensive systems, deepening even more the strategic partnership between the two countries. And during the visit, Merz also met President Yitzhak Herzog, who called him a true friend of the state of Israel. And afterwards, he met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. At the joint press conference, Merz called for a two-state solution and opposition to annexation, but emphasized that Hamas must have no rule in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu replied that Israel sees it differently. It reminded that Palestinian bloc in Gaza already received its own entity in the Gaza Strip. And what did they do with it? They tried to annihilate Israel and clarified that Israel will maintain security control from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. So I have two more quick news items to report to you. First, Israel is expecting a massive amount of rain this week, which we badly need. But there is the possibility of flooding in some places, especially up in the Galilee. So please be in prayer about that. Also, the flu season here in Israel has come early and hit hard, with more fatalities than usual, especially amongst children. So please be in prayer about this issue as well. That's it for today. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report everything that's happening here in Israel. And remember, this is a spiritual war. We need your help. We need your help in praying for the situation, praying for wisdom to our leaders, to your leaders, about what's happening in this region. Let's pray for the Iranian people to have better leadership than what they have. Let's pray for all the innocent lives that are affected by these terrorist regimes. Let's pray for the Palestinian people to have better leadership than what they have now. Let's pray for the US-Israel peace plan and future plan for South Lebanon and for the Gaza Strip to materialize. Let's pray for a real warm peace between Israel and Egypt surrounding economic cooperation and development. God can make all of that happen. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.